Gentlemen, here we go. 1 Samuel chapter 20. What an interesting passage to read this week and to journal from. Saul, the king, is at the pinnacle of his paranoia. The guy is totally jacked up. He's chaotic. He's full of rage. He's full of insecurity run amok. He is in bad shape. But it's interesting because in this passage we get to see how is it that we react or proactively make decisions in the midst of chaos. You and I are going to find chaos, and chaos is going to find us. The question is, are you and I living a reactive life, or are we living a proactive life? You and I are called to be proactive. You and I are saved from something, but we're also saved for something, towards something. So let's be proactive as we understand and journal this week, a better understanding of how we are made and how we operate as men. And I think you'll find this very beneficial. In addition to 1 Samuel 20, I want you to look at, with me, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. We have this God of peace that Paul talks about. His purpose is to sanctify us. That means grow us up, give us some depth, make us more godly and holy as men. Sanctify means to be put in a process of getting cleaned up and made holy, okay? So how do we better understand men in general or mankind in general? Well, this verse gives it to us. We are called to be sanctified by God in our spirit, that's a small s, our soul, and our body. All right, let's break it down. The day, assuming you have the day you accepted Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, you were immediately regenerated in your spirit. In other words, the switch got flipped up, your spirit got now on, and you now have a connection with God by faith. That's where the spiritual transactions between you and God and the communication takes place in your spirit, man. The second part of us, to help us understand our life, is our soul. Now, our soul is made up of our mind, our will, and our emotions, okay? How we think, what we desire, and how we feel, our feelings, okay? The third part of us is our body, our physical body. Now, here's the thing about all these, quote, parts of us. They all interact with one another, and they have interplay between one another. They each influence one another. So if you want to look at your life and better understand your motivation, your thought life, whether you're reactive or proactive, how you're feeling, up, down, depressed, manic, worried, fearful, whatever, or even if you're sick physically, you're going to understand yourself better by understanding this verse in 1 Thessalonians 5 and 23. All right. If you're sick, so you have the flu, you're down physically, the source and the strength you need to compensate for that, because that's when we make mistakes. That's when we make bad decisions. That's when we hurt ourselves. That's when we're most vulnerable to temptation and sin, when we're stressed or sleepless or physically ill. That's when we really need to tap into our spirit part of us and commune with God to get the strength to not destroy ourselves in the process. All right, if you want to understand why you think the way you do, why you feel the way you do, and why you desire the things you do, they're all in a relationship to who you are in relationship to God. Your spirit will dictate the condition of your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions. David has got himself in a situation where he can be incredibly reactive. And if he is reactive, he's going to become more like the reactor, Saul, than God. If you are reacting to things in life and have empowered other circumstances and people and situations to determine how you're going to think, the decisions you're going to make, what you're going to desire, and how you're going to feel physically, then you're in trouble because you are quite vulnerable. You and I can ill afford to be reactive men. We have to be people of poise, of wisdom, of clarity, of thought, who are slow to anger, who process things, who can be methodical when necessary and spontaneous when necessary. All of this originates in your spirit, man. That's the epicenter that determines how you're feeling, what you desire, what you think, and how you feel physically. All right? That having been said, you know, these videos that you're watching right now on a Sunday night, you get these videos. You go to church on a Sunday somewhere. You're in a Bible study. You're talking with guys in a group. All of that is great. And it can be religious activity that yields little fruit. The question is it helping you in your spirit, man, to change the way that you think? Is it actually affecting the way that you speak? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Focus more on quality as opposed to quantity. You know, when you get to Romans chapter 12, it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. There has to be transformation in your life in these activities that we're engaged in. If there's not, then we're approaching them with the wrong motivation. So in your journal this week, I want you to think about, how am I interacting with God? How am I communing with Him? How am I interacting with His Word? In small enough bites that I'm actually ingesting what I'm eating, and it's becoming a part of me. That's the proactive life. The reactive life is making things up as you go, making decisions out of fear, even insecurity like Saul, being paranoid, and actually destroying our own selves because our spirit isn't being fed. Remember, you will become this week like that which you eat. If you eat in small amounts the bread of life, you'll become more like Christ. That's sanctification. And eat enough to keep you hungry for more. Do not gorge yourself so you want to push away from the table. Remember, you and I are partaking of daily bread. I'm saying this because this is going to change the kind of father you are, husband, boyfriend, son, grandson, nephew, employer, employee. This changes everything. Eat enough to stay hungry. Digest what you eat. Think about it, and it will transform the way you think, the way you feel, what you desire, and how you feel physically. Think about that, but do more than think about it. Put it into action this week. I'll reach out to you Wednesday with an encouraging email. You are a faithful priest who does according to what is in God's heart and mind. Have a great week.